before the crew gets here and starts making a bunch of racket and noise and doing their thing. And it hasn't started shift yet, so not cutting into company time. Anyways, so I had some thoughts there this morning. There's some work drama over the last week, and people, their attitudes and entitlement and stuff. And I just think about something old Green Beret veteran said in Jocko Willenick's podcast, Mr. Tim Kennedy. It said, "Be humble or get humbled." And I felt that saying so very true about life, and pretty well anything in general. It's best to have a little bit of humility. Be humble. End of the day, none of us are really special. We're not that important. We're all replaceable at our jobs. It doesn't really matter how much effort you put in, how many days off you worked, or how much blood you shed for a company. You shift yourself into that liability category, it's a and like jiu-jitsu too, like you want to be humble with your skills. There's always going to be somebody better, younger, stronger. No different than my trade. There's always going to be a better mechanic, somebody that can figure something out smarter, somebody that's stronger, somebody that can, a wizard. So, it's good just to be humble about yourself, because someday you might just get humbled. Because the best, in the end, if you're not humble, life will humble you in the worst ways. And hopefully, if you have a bit of self-awareness, a bit of luck, you can come out of that, move on and learn. But as I said, at the end of the day, it's always best to be humble. Just know your limitations, and it's not to say don't have self-confidence and know your skills and produce the evidence of what you say. But end of the day, sometimes it's better just to be humble, listen, learn, focus on the task at hand. But when you come into a place, especially in my world, with a sense of entitlement, and you just prove yourself to be a complete moron time and time again, it's one of those things, right? So it's always good to be humble, because sometimes a guy like me might end up humbling you. Then again, I've been humbled more than once throughout my life. Life has done its fair share. I've been humbled as a parent. I've been humbled as a mechanic, as a partner. Life's kind of one of them things you learn. But I don't know, I find if you're humble with yourself and the people around you, you can navigate things a lot smoother. You can flow through things quite a bit easier. And people listen, and it's always good, because it helps you base your decisions out of kindness too. That's always key. But yeah, you can see him behind me here. The rain clouds are moving in, and it's going to be a wet day again. So yeah, just something to think about, when you're conducting yourself at work or at your home or wherever. Just take that second to be like, I should just be humble, because you never know, could get humbled. It's a funny world out there, especially when you navigate some industry stuff and trying to navigate life when everybody's got a say, and everybody just tries to make themselves look great, or make themselves look smart when they're not, or the dog fuckers trying to look like they're busy, and years and years and years ago, when I was before I even became a mechanic, I was working for a very large oil field company in the field and doing some pretty wild things. I discovered at a young age that there's 2 rules in order to survive the oil industry, especially when you're dealing with a high stress, high danger job, long hours, long days, and long hitches, usually in minus 40, plus 40, any imaginable environment condition, doesn't matter. Number 1 was always follow directions. You have a leader involved, listen to what he has to say. Unless your life is in danger, something's obviously unsafe, but at the end of the day, follow the directions given to you. A lot of the stuff in my careers have been, the policies and rules were all written in blood. And so follow directions from the people above you. And number 2, which I think is probably one of the more important rules, and even in life, is know when to talk, really know when not to talk. A lot of times, just talking is going to give you assign guilt, excuses, so getting into some binds at work, or, a lot of times it's better just to shut up, listen, absorb, try to learn what you can. Sometimes you got to sit there and listen to a moron trying to tell you some stuff that just isn't true, but at the end of the day, arguing with them isn't really going to get you that far. It's not going to accomplish the goals or the task at hand. And really, as I said, it kind of boils down to a rule of life I have, is don't complain, don't explain. And I've stated it before, and it's a handy rule. And sometimes it's just not worth it to explain yourself. A lot of times it'll just make the situation exponentially worse, and sometimes the people that you're trying to explain it to just won't comprehend. It's one of my challenges as a mechanic is trying to explain very technical things to somebody who is not mechanically inclined, but they want to know answers. But at the same time, it's a little bit gangster, and if somebody really wants to know, sometimes better just not to explain. Just let it go. And it may eat at them a bit, but really, a lot of times it's on you. Like, it's your explanation of things, and you don't have to justify yourself. Like, you don't have to justify your existence. You don't have to justify your job. Like, just be who you are. Do what you got to do. Just conduct yourself accordingly. Like, you made it this far. You've all survived something. We've all got a story. We've all got our ways about going through life, and so you don't have to explain that. You don't have to tell a life story. You just fucking do. Be you. Be who you are. And the rest will kind of follow suit. But don't ever have to explain yourself. That's your choice. But 9 times out of 10, you're better off just keeping yourself quiet, keep listening, keep your ears open and your mouth shut. And it's kind of one of those things. It's definitely navigated some pretty tricky situations in life, especially with bosses. Just leave it to yourself, and it's your story, your head. You don't have to justify it. So, but in the end too, it's always best to just be humble, because as I said, be humble or get humbled. It's funny because in that podcast, Jocko, there's another story he told about. You can YouTube it, a good, real or good story, and it's so true. Is that when I was back in that day, and even currently, like, people are complaining to me, and well, this went wrong and this went wrong. It's like, well, good. You can learn and get better. And it even boils down to something else. Is that always remember that rejection is God's protection. There's a plan laid out for us that it's well beyond our comprehension, and part of life is just learning to flow with that and just let go, try not to control, and just let God do the work. Let the universe unfold as it may. You really don't have any control of it, same as the world. You can control yourself and your reactions, so do that. And when things go wrong or sideways or catch on fire, good. You can learn, get better, and then the next time around you'll know better, know what to do, know how to react. But it's funny how it boils down to a bunch of core philosophies in life, especially one of my favorite guys I talk about, Alan Watts, the old Chinese farmer. Just because something bad happens doesn't mean it won't turn into something good down the road, and something good turning into something bad. That interconnectivity of life in the universe and all the layers and how it all unfolds. It's beautiful. It's magical, and it's such a cool thing to be a part of this life and to get to experience it all. And I think it even is a little bit about our purpose here. We're just immortal souls, energy, and we're stuck in this flesh skeleton, this exosuit of muscle and bone and tenant and eyes and ears and mouths, and but that's what we're here for, to be humble and to experience the highs and lows of life. And going back to something I said earlier, another rambling was you just go with it. We're here experience, and sometimes it's good to cherish the bad days. They happen for a reason. And I know a story of mine I'd like to share, I guess, is during COVID, I was an apprentice, and I was in school. I was commuting a couple hours to get to this class, and and then COVID hit. They kicked the kids out of school, and not long after that was me. So went back to work and busy oil industry job, and was turning wrenches, and I could feel it in the air, and I could feel something was coming. And then the purge happened. They'd let loose pretty well like 90% of the guys. I was a close friend with the foreman. He wasn't the foreman when we became friends, but he ended up moving into that position, and we built race cars together. We were a good guy, and I was the last one to get laid off, and I could tell it was hard. He was quite upset, but when you're a manager, that's your job. You're there to hire and fire, whether you like it or not, whether you like the guy, that's business. But so anyways, COVID happens, and I took advantage. My ex-wife at the time, she had worked from home. We had a low mortgage and low bills. I had some child support, but we were able to manage fairly nice. But not long into the downtime, I started, I was pushing 300 pounds, and I was getting sick, and I got inspired one day by a few different individuals. Jocko Willnick's was the one I just mentioned, David Goggins. Not to that extreme, but I needed a change, and so I forced myself to learn discipline, and even without having a job, I got up every morning and walked, hiked my old dog, and started slimming down. By the end of summer, I was down almost 80 pounds. I was getting in really good shape. My confidence was up. I was changing and evolving as a man, and it was for the good. I ended up getting into jiu-jitsu, and fundamentally changed my life. And a lot of great things that actually stemmed from that layoff. It was also the first time in my adult life where I actually had some time off. I worked a lot of my years away from home, and it was kind of nice to catch my breath. And shitty situation around the world and yada yada, but anyways, years later, I was approached to go work back at that company, but as a journeyman and as an experienced one, especially in that kind of industry and that specialized kind of equipment. And now this gentleman had moved on to a higher maintenance position, and he was a big dog. And not long before we parted ways again, which is more or less on my choice and some other political. Anyways, I went into his office and I said to my friend, I said, man, like, I know one of the hardest days of your life and your career was, laying guys like me off. I know it wasn't easy. I know it was a hard time. You really struggled, and I remember. But I said, you have to remember that it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. It ultimately changed my life for the better. So, I ended up becoming the man I am today, something to be proud of. I still have some of that, I still have that discipline. I still carry a lot of those habits, getting up early and, trying to do a workout or at least stretch and, do my thing. But if it wasn't for that one bad event, I don't know how my life would have panned out. So it just goes to show that sometimes the bad days will, always equal into something exponentially better. You just got to get through that day and that moment and remember that, it's for a better cause, and you don't know what's going to happen next. The future is always unwritten, and every decision you make fractures into a different timeline and a different world. So you can just relish the moment and try to stay positive and keep that positive vibration up, and just remember that it'll all work out. And before I sign off, I just remember that always stay positive. It's you don't know how things are going to work out, but if you keep a positive mindset and learn, evolve, it'll guaranteed it'll be better. And for all of you guys that are out there that are going through a real tough time, things are looking real dark, or you don't know what to do, just remember that it's going to be okay. It is going to work out. It may not be tomorrow, it may not be next week, it may take some years, it may even take decades. It doesn't matter. Just remember that no matter what happens, everything is gonna be okay. And if it's not, guess what? You can make it okay. Power of the mind, right? Anyways, as I said in the beginning, be humble or get humble. Hope the rest of you guys have a good day out there. Stay positive and tally ho, motherfuckers.